Fitness memes or gym memes. Probably all seen at least one of these in your lifetime, especially if you were in the fitness sphere, whether you're a powerlifter, bodybuilder, or CrossFitter. There are memes for every aspect of fitness, and it's become, fair to say, a staple within the community. Everybody's seen one. We all probably enjoy them to some aspect. Um, and today we're going to be looking at a few, but I'm not just going to be looking through gym memes because that wouldn't be particularly interesting. It would just be a sort of a reaction video. But I'm going to be taking them fairly seriously, probably more seriously than they were made to be taken, or certainly deserve to be taken. Um, but interestingly, a lot of these memes actually have elements to them that are fair to say a problem or an actual issue that we might find ourselves in whilst we're delving into fitness. So the idea is today I'm going to be going in to what some of those problems are, perhaps how we resolve them or how they come about altogether. Let's take a look. Okay, so I'm still not ready for a tank top. So this is, I'm guessing, trying to point towards this sort of growing trend of people saying that they have body dysmorphia, that although they might be in incredible shape, they don't particularly see it themselves. So this can come about in a couple of ways, I think personally, and my second opinion on this might cause some anger for some people watching. But the first one would be that a lot of us would tend to look at ourselves after we've actually had a gym session. The lighting within the gym is probably a lot better than 90% of the lighting that you would have throughout the day. Obviously, coming out of the gym and having a pump looking bigger, especially if that's your goal, you're creating unrealistic expectations for how your body actually looks. And we've seen this quite a lot. A lot of sort of fitness influencers, Instagram models, or what have you, have made videos about this where they say, "Oh, this is how I look for 10% of the day, and this is how I look for the rest of the 90%," and there'll be like a certain dramatic difference because lighting, etc., does make truly quite a large difference, and that can be one reason for there being such an influx of this idea that people have body dysmorphia and they're creating they believe they look worse than they do. But my personal opinion is that this isn't true, and actually there is an opposite effect happening in which people have a much more deluded sense of how they actually look, possibly because of the same reasoning. But I would say that most people highly overestimate the condition that they're in. And I think this is much more common. And I think that this idea of body dysmorphia is a little bit of a buyout towards their own delusion. This is not going to be a popular opinion, but I would say it's much more common that people would tend to underestimate their body fat percentage or underestimate how much muscle mass they're actually carrying rather than overestimating it. Or overestimating the body fat percentage, underestimating the body fat percentage, overestimating the muscle mass percentage. So they believe that their body's condition is in better condition than it is. This could be from the same effect of always just looking at yourself when you are in the most sort of unrealistic condition. But I would say most people really overestimate, if you ask someone what their body fat is, they are probably going to be way out on their percentage, and that what they would compare themselves to is probably in reality much further from the truth than they would like to admit. And I think this idea that tends to float around about I have body dysmorphia is again sort of buying into that delusion. My personal recommendation for this, to avoid this issue, would be, if you're going to take progress photos, take them in the most common lighting that you have, whether that be as like a natural lighting, and take them within the morning. So when you are at the least exercise state, probably a very common state that you would actually see yourself in as well. I think most people that would see their body would probably be during the morning period. And then you'll get really used to the idea of how you actually look 90% of the time. And although that may be painful for a small offset period of time, especially with Instagram models and everything else that you're constantly comparing yourself to, it can lead to like a better baseline of mental health towards your body image, I would say. So yeah. On to the next one. Okay, so breakfast 300 calories, lunch 400 calories, dinner 600 calories, evening snack 2,400,000 calories. Yeah. So this is potentially an issue a lot of people face. It depends in which way you go about this. So I'm assuming, based off of this, I don't know quite what this means referring to, other than the fact that they have like probably a sweet tooth in the evening as well is the most common. But snacks just feeling much better after 8 p.m. So depending on your goal, whether you're bulking or cutting, this we could turn this into perhaps an advantage in some respects. So if you had a certain caloric restraint that you had to hit within the day, if you are type A sort of person, which is this person, for example, it might be very unwise to have a lot of your calories during the breakfast and lunch periods, or perhaps any calories in these periods at all. So, for example, if your goal is truly just to lose fat mass, and that you are heavily, your hunger heavily leads towards the evening time, I would go out on a limb and say that perhaps towards the breakfast or lunch period, you're not so hungry, if hungry at all. And this is where things that you've probably heard before is like a intermittent fasting, which I'm not a big fan of, but sort of controlling when you eat in this aspect can be really helpful. I don't truly believe that there is anything magical to intermittent fasting, like having one big meal a day in the evening is significantly better than having 4 meals a day. In fact, I think it could be slightly marginally worse. But the big thing towards a diet would be adherence, and what will keep you adhered towards the calorie deficit that you're in for the most prolonged period of time, up to around 16 weeks, is probably where the tail off end. It just the fatigue for the diet becomes too much for most people. So for this person, for example, this type A, it could be wise to say, right, are we hungry at breakfast time? No, I don't have any hunger at all. Okay, so why don't we not have these 300 calories? not that we can ever make up for 2,400,000, but obviously quite an over exaggeration. But you can kind of see what I'm getting at here, that we can move the majority of our calories towards the evening when we feel the most hungry, and perhaps we have some habitual hunger in this period. So why not take it into an advantage of the periods when we're not hungry, and not eat on those periods. At most, if you are going to eat, try to make it like purely forms of protein, so you're getting that bit more evenly distributed throughout the day, although that might not be as big a benefit as perhaps I once and other people once thought, looking at recent studies. But yeah, an actual genuine issue that people can come across, which can really affect their adherence when going into a calorie controlled deficit. Okay, so in meme number 3 here, we've got the common format of Drake being disgusted by one opinion and gleefully agreeing to the next one. So the first one of Drake disgusted is saying that high arch, assumedly, on a bench press low bar on a squat, and sumo stance in a deadlift are cheating. And the one he is gleefully agreeing to would be that good form is whatever allows you to lift the most weight within the rules. So I'm assuming this is mostly applying to powerlifters in their squat, bench, and deadlift style of training. There is a community around the powerlifters that would say that the way in which they are moving their weight would be cheating. Which, you know, towards their rules in their competition is not the case. It's not cheating unless it's outside of the rules. This is kind of the definition of cheating here. I think where the miscommunication comes into play is when, for example, let's say that somebody would have a 200 kilogram higher bar squat, and then you would have someone that's an avid power lifter looking to just lift the most weight under their rules, who did a 200 kilogram low bar squat. It would be, and I don't think that this is a particularly controversial statement, that the higher bar squat would be the more impressive squat in that scenario, assuming both people weigh the same and have the same sort of body structure. And I think this is where this comes into play for the most part. In terms of it being cheating, I would say that it's not, as it fits within the rules, as I said before. But that being said, if there is, for example, somebody going to compare themselves to somebody else's strength achievements whilst using these forms that I would say for the most part in all of these would make lifting the equivalent amount of weight heavier, then it would become a bit more of an issue. I imagine it would upset most people if they had a very good PR and somebody said, "Oh, I lift that, bro," but then they're doing it in a low bar stance on their squat. It would probably peeve most people, and that's where the argument is probably originated from. But who knows why these things come about. But in short, my opinion on the high arch, the low bar, and sumo stance, if it is within the rules of said competition of whatever fitness community you're in or whatever it is, then you are not cheating by the definition of the word cheating. But if you are comparing your sumo stance deadlift or low bar squat or high arched bench press to somebody's low arch bench press, high bar squat, and conventional stance deadlift, and bragging about it being heavier or the same weight when you're a similar body types or body weight, then it becomes a little bit, I don't know what the word is, douchey, let's say. Yeah, so this one is a little bit annoying. Gyms, especially commercial gyms, are really known for, as this meme has put it, having the world's shittiest playlists. And then you can hear just their terrible music in the background while you're trying to get through your workout. That being said, I would put it to anyone who owned a commercial gym as to, if that is the shittiest playlist that they're playing, what playlist would you have that was better? So anyone that's been to the gym at different periods of time is aware that there is probably different ages or particular clientele at different times. If you go to the gym at 8, 9 in the morning, all the way up to sort of 10, 11 a.m., you're probably going to have older clientele, and you'll notice that the music is directed towards that older clientele. They'll have music that they probably would enjoy the most overall, generically. Although each of these people will have individual tastes, they have to pick a playlist for this older generation, this older clientele, that they will enjoy the most. It's not an easy thing to do. And as we come into the more common hours of the gym, let's say between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., this is when this is the period of time where I would say that most people, unless it's like a pure gym that seems to just repeat their playlist, um, would have this issue of the shitty playlist playing in the background, which is why most people bring headphones to the gym so they can listen to their own stuff. So that Ed Sheeran's not singing "Dancing in the Dark" while you're trying to, hit a deadlift PR, which is probably not the most motivating thing in the world. Or maybe it is. It depends who you are. Could be. Doubt it. But the issue that I would sort of put back to everyone else is, well, what playlist would you play? Um, most of these gyms just play the sort of top pops charts, and this is the most popular music of the era that we are in. It seems the most logical thing to play. Now, although I would probably not listen to any of this music, and I'd much prefer Slipknot in the background or Sleep Token playing. Um, I, Most people aren't going to listen to what I listen to, or although maybe some of the guys that are into fitness in the way that I am may listen to this music as well, or maybe they listen to um, electric or house or whatever they listen to. You have to pick a playlist that is going to be the least offensive to everyone within your commercial gym. And that's wherein the issue comes to play, and why we see such low bar music in the gyms, because it isn't because they are trying to play music that everyone enjoys. They are trying to play music that is the least unenjoyable to everyone, which is a completely different thing. And it must be quite a hard task to do if you were to sit there and write a playlist for everyone in the commercial gym, and I challenge you to do it yourself, what that would be, and be aware that this is probably going to be playing almost every day for quite some time, unless you're willing to be a gym owner that sits there of every evening and creates a new playlist for the next day to play for hours on end. It's yeah, I can see and sympathise as to why this is such an issue for people. If you go to a bit more of a niche gym, let's say you're a powerlifter and you go to powerlifting gyms, you often probably find people who are very similar to you and they have similar music tastes. If I go into a powerlifting gym and they might be playing Korn playlist, I'm still going to enjoy it, although I don't particularly listen to Korn. It's going to be within the genre that I enjoy. If you go into a bodybuilding gym, they might have something similar. But you have to go into a really niche gym, and then you have to deal with other issues that these niche gyms will have, like everybody wanting to use the exact same equipment that you would be. So commercial gyms definitely have their place, and they're definitely useful, although they are massively hated on. They are often readily available, normally 24-hour, normally pretty cheap, but you have to deal with them not having that much weight. And playing really shitty playlists, and oftentimes being super busy. There is trade-offs to which gym that you would find yourself joining. One final gym meme that we'll be looking at and sort of evaluating is this. Quite a common one that I see all the time: how I feel when bulking versus how I look. So, although that this meme might not be leading to what I'm about to go into on here, there are some things that can kind of lead to this. Most people seem to go within this format of when they are going into their bulk, and most people's format seems to go bulk, cut, bulk, cut, bulk, cut, etc. Ad infinitum. But I would say that this would generally be a mistake for most people, and end up in the situation that this meme is implying. Now, when you're on a bulk, you of course you're able to eat more foods. You're going to feel stronger for this. You're going to be able to perform better. Your recovery is going to be possibly better as well for especially towards the end of a cutting period. So you're going to feel incredible. You're going to feel really strong, feel quite confident. And then there's the how you look side of things, where obviously this is implying that your body fat percentage raises quite drastically when going onto a bulk, especially if you fell into the trap of the dirty bulk, which I would always advise people against. The trade-offs for the benefit that it gives are 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 quite large. The benefit is negligible, and the trade-offs are huge. Like one of the most obvious ones being the larger percentage of body fat that you're going to have, the body fat tissue you're going to gain. The big issue as to why this would be for most people, especially if they really cut and bulk effectively, like if you have been training for a year or two now and you're going into cuts, and you know by the end of the cut you feel quite good, and then when you go into the bulk in the first sort of 3 to 4 weeks you're like, damn, like I look like crap. I feel great, but like all that cutting just seemed like a waste of time. Like I'm a little bit leaner, but it's a real issue that we see with people, or I see with people. Um, and the mistake that they're having is they're going straight from a cut into a bulk. So it, when going through a cutting phase, you're going to accumulate a lot of diet fatigue. There's going to be hormone levels within you that are going to rise, like lipids that are going to rise, that are driving you to eat more foods. Your body's going into starvation and is trying to actively produce all the chemicals it can to physically make you eat more food. It's going to try and determine your action for you. So this effect does not fall off the moment you stop cutting. Let's say that you have a 16-week really successful cut. Well, your diet doesn't end at the end of that 16-week really successful cut. Your diet is going to continue for another 14, 16 weeks. That's how long it's going to take before you adjust to your new setting point that you want your body to be at, and a new body fat percentage that you want. Arguably, I would say that after the end of the cut, that's when the diet really starts. I think that is the most difficult period, because you have a few extra calories, but they are never satisfying, and these are calories are just towards maintenance as well. So you're also not really going towards a goal. You're not going to get much any leaner, particularly. You're not going to get particularly bigger or gain muscle. But it is a very essential period of time to avoid this how I look side of this meme. Because if you are not tracking your calories and you don't stay adhered to a diet during this phase after the cut, which I would recommend going into a maintenance level of calories. So if you was in a 500, 600 calorie deficit towards the end of your cut, add only 500, 600 calories after the cut for a maintenance period, and really focus on hammering down strength. You're not going to gain that much muscle. We want to lower the fatigue of hypertrophy anyway, especially if you want to go into a bulk. So go into a phase of purely strength work with lower rep ranges, higher weights, and get your body's new setting point standardized. You want to get used to eating your new maintenance calories, because I can guarantee you will still feel almost as hungry as you were towards the end of the cut just eating at maintenance calories, because of those hormone levels. You're going to have 500-600 extra calories, but they're not going to be enough, and it's going to be really hard to adhere to, because you're going, man, I feel hungry all the time still, but I'm not even getting any leaner. So it doesn't seem to be towards a goal, but it is. And the goal that you're heading towards during this maintenance period is staying at the leanness that you have managed to achieve during your cut, and not letting that all go to waste, because you will go back into the how I look. You will quite easily add all of the weight that you lost during the cutting phase by not keeping track of it. If you go straight into a bulk, seriously, man, like if you finish on a cut, and you know, if you want to try it. Go on a 16-week cut, a really good one. Head out to an all-you-can-eat buffet and eat everything you can. Watch yourself pummel down 8,000-10,000 calories. It's not hard. It's not hard. Watch yourself ruin that whole 16 weeks of that cut. Easily. You really need to act to fight that. The benefit of the bulking period, it seems to be, the more and more that I seem to look into it and delve into it, and the more the science comes out for it, is that that even 500 calories as a surplus may be overkill. It seems to be more towards, 2 to 300 calories as a surplus. This is being sort of colloquially, I can't say the word. This has been sort of deemed as main gaining, which is a little bit frowned upon in some aspects, but it seems to be that you can actually still gain the maximum amount of muscle that you can on this smaller caloric surplus, and that the tail off end towards when the benefit of the extra calories starts to dip off seems to be a little bit closer than we would think before. Now, this may not be the case for anyone that is enhanced or takes PEDs. I'm not quite sure. I haven't seen any sort of literature on that or anything recently, but certainly for naturals, it would seem that 300 calorie surplus is kind of the top end of what you would need when bulking. So think of it this way: when you go into your real successful cut for that 6 weeks, 16 weeks, or however many weeks you need to do it for, go into a maintenance phase for the same period of time, focus on strength. You'll still get some muscular benefit anyway, especially if you've only been going to the gym for a year or two, as you don't actually need any surplus of calories to gain muscle, although it'll be much less muscle than if you did have a surplus. And then after that, you can go into a bulk of a 300 calorie surplus and not gain that much fat tissue back. So you can go into a bulk for another 16 weeks until you're sick of eating more, and your body just needs a break from all the hypertrophy stimulus, and you need to desensitize yourself to muscle gain. You're going to look great. I mean, like, you're going to be bigger, and you're going to be leaner than you've ever been. So try to avoid this trap of going into a cut and then going straight into a bulk and probably just losing all the benefit of the cut that you had anyway, would be my advice here, as this is probably a much more common problem than is being addressed currently. And that has been Fitness Memes, but taken seriously. I, as always, am Coach Ollie. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe, follow, wherever else this gets posted on, for more content like this in the future. Thanks again for watching, and goodbye for now.